Hi, I'm Susie. I'm the National Shelter Director at Farm Sanctuary. I'm here with Ash. Who's wagging his tail? Are you wagging your tail? And we're in the sheep barn because we are part of Explore.org, which we absolutely love. So we get a lot of questions about the sheep, because the sheep cam is definitely our most popular cam, probably because of this guy. Look at him. And the sheep are really amazing. So this time of year, you can see they have like lots of nice thick wool. And one of the questions about the sheep that we get is if we shear them, and we do shear them once a year. Today, come here, Adriano. Today is a nice hot day, so they have really thick, full wool right now. So everybody's inside trying to stay cool, which is nice. It's nice for all of us. It's been so cold. We have one night that was 29 degrees. So I'm glad that they have wool, because if they didn't have their nice thick wool when it was cold, they'd obviously get really sick. Question already.
We have a question, yes. Will the goats and sheep go outdoors once it's winter time?
Yes, the sheep and the goats at the farm go outside in the winter, especially the sheep. We make nice big paths for them to go outside because they need fresh air. They don't need to be stuck inside the barn, just like everybody else. They don't want to stay inside. This is Lloyd. Look how cute Lloyd is. And this is Florence. This is the mother of this one. This is Adriano, the head of the herd. They start coming. It's crazy how many sheep there are in here. And they are the sweetest animals on the planet. But yes, they go outside. The sheep are not at all bothered by the snow in the winter. The goats who are in here, most of them are young enough that it's not such a big deal. But our older goats actually have to wear coats because they do get cold. As goats get old, as sheep get old, they actually get thinner, unlike me, who seems to only expand as I age. They get thinner, right? Your mom is very thin, but she's very, very beautiful. And then the other thing that we've been getting a lot of questions about, so I'm going to answer now, is people are asking about Sky. Sky is the head goat in this herd, but he has been pulled because he's very sick. He started losing weight, and he got a cough, and then he started getting parasites, which is not normal. We do what's called FAMACHA testing in here, so once a month we look at the third eyelid on every one of these animals, which does seem like a big project, and it is. But we're looking for anemia because the parasite that's really bad for them is called Homunculus contortus. It causes anemia, and it's something that we have to check for, and you don't want to just treat them because the parasite's actually resistant to most of the treatments. So you don't want to just treat unless that you actually have that problem. Sky is the only one that has that, which means that his immune system is down. So we took him in to get a transfusion. He actually didn't need a transfusion. This is Gomax. He doesn't even like me. What is happening? Anyway, he didn't need the transfusion, but they did an ultrasound of his chest because of the coughing. He did not have pneumonia, but they found masses behind his chest. So he actually has cancer, and it's behind the lungs, so it's pressing on the lungs. So as it grows, sadly, it's going to make it harder for him to breathe. He's still in quarantine, but he's with his best friend, Jordan, so he's not by himself. Nobody is ever by themselves here. So he's okay, and if you're visiting, you can see him. He still comes running out to see everybody. He's very happy, but he's starting to get picked on in here because he was the head goat, and so as he's getting sicker, we're afraid that he's just going to get more and more picked on, so we pulled him for now. We don't know what the future holds for him. We're really concerned, obviously. It's a quality of life issue because it's cancer, and there's nothing we can do surgically at this point. But that's what's going on with Sky.
So people are wondering, they noticed a lot of headbutting with the sheep and the goats in this barn. Is that aggressive? Is it normal?
The headbutting that goes on with sheep and goats in this barn, they've been together for a very long time. Most of the time it's play. Every once in a while it gets a little ugly. But when a sheep and a goat are going head to head, most of the time that is just play. When they're really hurting each other is when they're hooking. So like if they have horns and they're hooking underneath them, or like slamming them into the sides or slamming them into the wall, then yes, they are trying to be aggressive. The good news is that that rarely happens, and what you're seeing is mostly play. In the fall, they're much more playful, and we also have a lot of female sheep because we don't spay the sheep. We do neuter the males, we don't spay the females. So the females can go into heat, so that causes a lot of this too. And that's still not anger and aggression. That's actually much more like play. I am getting surrounded. This is not normal, by the way. Gomax doesn't like me. You do today. You are very handsome. You're cool. Oh, so much.
Charity would like to know if you have any plans to write a book, because she'd love to hear about sanctuary residents that you've known, how you got started here, became
Okay, well, I started writing a book. And the problem with writing a book is it takes a lot of time. And that is something that I'm planning on doing in the future. And it will be about the animals and the animal stories. Because thousands of animals come through here. We were just talking today, I've been here, in March I'll have been here 18 years. And there are still animals on this farm that were here before I got here. So it's really amazing to be able to like meet them when they're young and watch them grow old. And I can't wait till we grow old together. So yeah, the animals are really amazing. And there's so many great stories. And there's so many great stories about their relationships with each other too. So that is going to happen someday. It's all about the time. Okay, so the other questions that we've been getting though, and the thing I really, really love about Explore, besides the fact that people get to meet these animals and see them for like the great people that they are. We call them sheeple because they are sheeple. But the thing that we like the most about the Explore thing, besides the fact that people are getting to meet them, is that they're pointing out when they see something wrong, and we really like that because right now we've had a lot of rain, so we've had a lot of wet weather and mud and all these things coming up. The people are coming to see the sheep. So with the wet weather, we do get foot abscesses, we get like infections in the hooves, because we do trim their hooves constantly, so they're always getting like hoof trims and body checks. But if somebody is limping, most of the time they're on pain meds. So right now, Roger has been limping. I think I'm watching him walk right now. Nope, he's gotten better. He's a lot better. And we poulticed him because we thought that he had a foot infection. We have another sheep that's on a poultice right now, and then what we have the most is Cliff. So one of our older male sheep has gotten really bad arthritis in his elbow, and that's like, this is our elbow, there up here is their elbow. So it looks more like a shoulder. And when they have that, they don't put a lot of weight on their foot. And arthritis is not atypical for older sheep. It's one of the things that we see the most. So pain management is a really big deal. Hey, Francis. So it's a really big deal to put them on pain management when they need it, and they stay on it until they don't need it. Most of the older sheep that we have, especially in the back, you'll see have really, really significant arthritis. That's why they're not in the main flock.
So a lot of people love seeing the sheep at night and are also wondering if there will ever be a night vision camera in the cow barn.
Oh, night vision in the cow barn. Nobody wants to know what the cows do after dark.
Well, this person wants to know what the cows, how they sleep at night, if they each have their own barn, do they sleep standing up, what do the cows do at night?
Cows, this is Francis. He likes to get attention. But yes, the cows actually are awesome. The cows are really amazing when they sleep, just like everybody else. They sleep lying down. The cow tipping rumor isn't true. Cows sleep lying down. If you were to go into the barn, you would see that a lot of them are in the barn this time of year. A lot of them sleep outside because it's nice and cool. But they do lie down when they sleep. I think everybody that was if you watched Facebook Live this morning, and if you didn't, you should go on our Facebook page. Hello, Francis. Because we had a baby this morning. One of the cows that we rescued actually had a baby. And you'll get to watch them. We're going to go in and live feed after this down there with the mom and the baby. But it's amazing to watch when there's a mom and a baby because the mom's so big and the baby like scoots up into them and they'll sleep like all squished together just like these guys do. But maybe someday we'll have a cam at night in the cattle barn. But for right now, there's a lot of cameras going on around here. Hi, Francis. If you ever notice that sheep are very pushy, everybody thinks they're so shy, but when they're not shy, oh my God, they're really pushy. What am I supposed to do? Okay, hold on.
So
Yes.
a lot of people are noticing that their wool is growing back
Yes.
in time for winter. After we shear them, how long will it take to normally grow back?
Oh, this wool grew back since April, May. So April we start shearing. We shear our chubbiest because they don't need the wool as much, and we also shear the younger ones that are like, healthiest. But we always wait to shear our older ones at the end because the weather's still weird in April. So sometimes it gets super, super cold. So we don't want to shear if it's super cold, especially the elderly and the babies. So anybody that's like really thin, we would never shear early. So they get sheared in May. So these guys will be sheared again in April and May. But right now, you can see how deep the wool is. So, and everybody has different wool. Ooh, hook to your horn. So if you watch, it's deep. It's really, really deep wool. Very thick. Yeah, so they have nice wool. And you can see Adriano has a very different kind of wool, and he loves to be scratched. Yes, he does.
It's actually a good follow-up question because we have people wondering what type of sheep we have here. Because we go into the different
So
breeds.
many. Okay, so this is a Romanov Finn cross. His mom is right beside Sam. Look down here. That's Florence, his mother, and you can see that his mom doesn't have the same wool as he does, nor is she even close to being the same size as he is. So he probably looks more like Dad, but he definitely has Romanov in him, and it's this long, hairy, thin, like wool. So Luke, you can come up here and look at this wool if you want. But see how the wool is very like long and stringy? So this is Romanov wool, but this looks like his mom. So he's like Dad here, Mom here, Dad, Mom, Mom. So the Romanovs actually have multiple babies. Romanovs, unfortunately, are used in mostly meat production. Their wool is like this kind of hair wool would be used for like carpet and tweed if they were using wool. But they are used for lamb production because they give birth to multiple birds almost every time. So with Romanovs, sometimes you actually have like triplets or quadruplets. It's very, very scary because they only have 2 teats, which makes it hard for them to all eat enough. So yeah, this is Romanov cross. God knows what you are. I know who he is too. He's half Suffolk. Oh, sorry, Brian. So Brian is half Suffolk, and his mother actually is a Tunis, and he's a twin. His mother is about the same size as Florence, that tiny one. She's actually in our special needs herd, and he has a twin sister. So when they were born, they were really small, but they're more the size of their father. And the Suffolk is like the black face, black legs, white wool, which we have a few of them in here. We have a ton right now of Katahdins, so many Katahdins. So Aaron is a Katahdin cross. You can see how beautiful it is. He's a Welsh Katahdin cross, that's why he's black and white. But you can see that he's a hair sheep. So hair sheep, like Annabelle, who's the brown one. You can look at Annabelle against the pillar. Annabelle is a Katahdin as well. So she's a hair sheep, and she actually does not have to be shorn. She'll never have to be shorn. She'll rub her wool off. So it's a more natural, like, sheep response. Or Bob Barker, who's right by the gate, is also a Katahdin. So again, those are hair sheep. So they grow hair instead of wool, and they don't actually have to be shorn. All of that will rub off. We're seeing a lot more Katahdins, and most of the time when we do we get Katahdins in a rescue, it's because the rescue is a place where they were raising sheep for lamb meat. Very sad. We don't talk about it. Say, don't talk about it. That's where he was from too. Ash doesn't like to talk about it. I won't ever do it again.
So when the sheep wag their tails, does that mean they're happy?
Yes, when the sheep wag their tails, and if you ever watch, see if I can get the right spot. It's just like with dogs or cats or anybody else. When you get the right spot, they often wag the tail because it feels really good. But like when they're nursing and when they're doing something where they feel comforted, they start wagging their tail. And that's a nice thing. It's a good thing. Yeah, see? Look at that tail. Yeah, it's because you're so happy all the time. So Adriano was a baby who came in with his mom. So he actually came in from a backyard butcher, and it was a place where they actually killed the babies really close to where the mothers were. So the moms were really scared of us. And so Florence, who's become really friendly, which is awesome, was not friendly when she came. So Adriano was really protective of her, even though he was a baby. So he actually used to butt us all the time, and he would butt anybody that tried to get the mom to leave the barn. So you were very protective. And he has a twin sister too, and she never ever got friendly. Like she never once got friendly with us. So each sheep has such a very, very different personality. So even if they're twins, it doesn't mean they're going to all be the same. Now they're leaving. This isn't good. Please don't leave us.
Is it something you said?
It must have been something I said. But it's good because now we get Aaron. We can get a close-up of Aaron. Come on, you guys. You can't leave. We're doing a live feed. This is really bad. That's Bernie. Goodbye, Bernie. Joel, man, stop. This is Joel. So Joel is a mix. He's half Katahdin, half wool sheep. So he has wool and hair. So some of his hair will come out, and some of the wool will have to be shorn. And I'm hoping they don't all leave, but they might. Okay.
So do you sell the wool or eggs that we collect here at the farm?
No, we do not. So the reason we don't is we want people to see the animals the way we see them. And we don't see them as commodities at all. Like there's nothing, they don't have to provide a product for us to sell. Like we want to see them as individuals. So this is Nate, Bob, Joel, Ash, and they don't have to produce something to make money. So and we're explaining, I think the main thing is we're trying to educate people about where these animals come from and what they are used for. And in most of the cases where those things are being produced, like eggs or wool, the conditions are really, really bad. So we're not wanting to promote the use of those products, because by promoting the use of those products in any way, it's saying it's okay, and they should just be able to be alive just to be alive. You don't have to do anything. Trust me. You've done enough.
So how many sheep live in this herd, and are they all spayed and neutered?
Okay, so we have, right now we only have 10. No, so we have about almost 100 sheep in this flock. Well, it's 2 flocks. So with the elderly flock and this flock together, we have about 100 right now. We're doing a lot more rescue with sheep because there's a lot more lamb production going on recently where we're getting cruelty cases. It's a lot of the farm to table operations where they're just not being taken care of. And I think part of the problem is that they're competing with a very large market. So I think there's almost a myth that the farm to table are coming from these beautiful farms and beautiful places, and most of the time that isn't going to be true. If you're really buying from those places, you would probably need to go see them. So the places where we got Ash, the places where we got Annabelle, all of those places were where animals were locked up and they were in their own feces. There were a lot of dead animals. There were cruelty charges filed. We were able to take them out. So we want to make sure that people are aware that that was the last place where we got them all, was a big farm to table operation where everybody just assumed that the animals were living outside and having a really peaceful existence. Oh, see, they're really mad now. They hate talking about that. And, as for neutering, hi, Hazelton. We do neuter all the males. Every male is neutered instantaneously when they arrive. But the females, it's a very invasive surgery, so unless there's some health reason, we won't spay them because it is much more invasive to spay.
Do you ever have Romney marsh?
Do we what?
Do you have Romney marsh? R-O-M-N-E-Y marsh?
Romney sheep? Yes, we do have Romneys in
It
here.
says Romney marsh.
I don't know what that means. Romney marsh. Explain and I will tell you.
So what kind of sheep is Scott?
Where? Oh, is who?
Scott.
Oh, Scott is a Katahdin. So Scott, who just left, is a Katahdin. And let me show you another one too. But Scott's a Katahdin. That is a Romanov going out with the harlequin-looking face. And she is actually a triplet who was born here 13 years ago. Right in front of you is Summer. Summer loves Roughhouse, so hopefully he is a piece of Friesian. They are actually used in dairy production. Can we go out here? Mm-hmm. Let's walk and see where they're going. Come on, Ash. Let's go to pasture. Come on. They're like, yep, let's go. And as you can see, we're going up to pasture. So they follow, you can see the paths that they follow to go up the hill. They're going up the hill right now, and they're going to eat some grass because that's what they eat this time of year. We don't feed grain unless an animal is very, very thin or needs food for some reason to supplement their diet. Like if they're losing teeth and they have no ability to chew, we have to give them a mash feed. But most of their diet, all of their diet, is either grass or grass hay. And that is what they eat. So you can see they're going up the hill right now. And the beauty is we have the Explore cams that it can see them going up the hill. The other thing you're going to see, and let's see if we can see what's happening. We have a newcomer, and you will see him in our special needs goat herd that's connected to the sheep group. So if you're watching Explore Cams, there's a new boy, and he's going to have casts on his legs. We'll tell you his story later, but he has casts on his legs because his fetlocks need to strengthen up. They roll. So he was walking on his knees when we got him, and he had sores all over, and now he's ready to go. So he has joined our elderly goat herd. That's got our big, giant male goats that are like 15 years old right now, and they're accepting him, which is really nice, and he's out trying to walk in the field. So if you're watching Explore and you're seeing the side camera, and you see somebody with casts on their legs, that is Bam Bam, and he is awesome, and he likes to do this. Bam Bam, Bam Bam.
So with so many sheep here, how do you remember all their names?
You remember their names because it's so easy once you get to know them. It's like, I tell this to everybody, so you've probably heard me say it, but it's like when you first meet twins and you think there's absolutely zero chance that you will ever be able to tell them apart, and in a week they look nothing alike because they have different mannerisms. They have so many things about them that is different. Like it's not, and I always look at their face, just so you know. So if you're looking at their face, that way when they're shorn, you're not all confused, because that seems to be the time when people mix them up the most. but they come in small groups, so you get to meet them at different times. So some of our sheep come in by themselves, some of our sheep come in like a flock of like 20 or 30, and you get to know them slowly, and they get to know us too. I'm sure they can't tell us apart either. We all start to look the same. But yeah, I think it's the shirt that's makes it really hard for them, but we can tell them apart because we get to know them, and each one's an individual. Their personalities are all really different, and they are absolutely amazing and going up to graze. And they know that winter's coming, so they're not going to have grass soon. So I think they're taking advantage, even though it's hot today.
Do the sheep have any problems with dental disease?
Sheep have problems with dental disease. They do. We actually, thankfully, have Cornell right here, because the sheep and the goats, as they age, get really sharp points on their teeth, and a lot of times they can't actually eat because it's hurting, like it's pointing, it's like cutting into their jaw or into their mouth. So we always take them in for dentals when they need it, and we can actually have some of the dentals done here if it's just to smooth the teeth. The biggest issue we've had, and I wish Dory was still here, we've had one girl that has had dental disease since she was really young, and as she's gotten older, most of her teeth have been pulled, but you don't want to pull all the teeth on a ruminant if you can help it, because they need to eat fiber, so they need to grind up all the fibrous food that they have, which is like the grass and the hay. And she was actually like dropping big wads of hay and grass like tobacco, so it looked like she was a tobacco chewer, which she was not. And so we had to like get a dental done on her, and now she's perfect, but she really had a hard time eating. So you want to make sure that their teeth are good, because they'll starve to death if they can't properly eat.
So what's the age range, I guess, both for sheep here and ones that would be in the industry?
Well, in the industry, what we've seen is they do continue to breed females until like they're like the places we've seen will continue to breed the females to produce lamb till they're like 10 or 11 years old, which is really hard on that body because that's an elderly sheep. So sheep and goats are both kind of considered elderly over 10. Like that's when things start to happen and their body starts to break down. Here our oldest sheep are like 16. We've had one 7 like ovine progressive pneumonia, so they have like a viral condition before they come in, caseous lymphadenitis. But most of our sheep, even with those conditions, live into their teens. That's never been a problem, as long as you're taking care of them and maintaining their feet and making sure they can walk, making sure they can eat, they have proper dental work when they need it, just like everyone was just talking about, and doing routine checks, because we see every one of these animals individually, like once a month, like we touch everybody. So you're always touching every single part of them, because underneath the wool it's very hard to see if something's going on. Goats are the same thing. They have the same problems. They get really, really thin though when they're older. The other thing is the condition that a lot of our goats have, because we do rescue. These aren't goats that came from like a fair where everybody's trying to have like these beautiful animals that are perfectly shorn. We get them from really bad cruelty cases. So a lot of them come in with diseases like caseous lymphadenitis. They come in with caprine arthritic encephalitis. And that one is the one that keeps the goats, especially as they get older, really, really thin. And it's also a disease that can kill a goat or have a goat be completely lame and crippled and not able to walk by the time they're just a few years old. It just depends on how they respond to the disease. And it's a virus that's spread from mom to baby. So it's something that we can't control. But we can control their pain. So those are the things that we see when we bring animals in. Lots of different diseases, but we can actually manage pain and manage most of the conditions. And obviously we have quality of life. But we have a very large right now elderly sheep population, and we have another elderly sheep population that needs to move in with the other elderly sheep population because they're starting to get too old to walk up and down the hills.
Is it a good idea to keep a couple of sheep just for pets?
Probably one of the easier animals to take care of, but I also think they're one of the easiest animals to fall in love with. They are so kind and so sweet and such great, loving companions. But you have to be zoned. You don't want to keep them. You want to keep them in a place where they feel like they can be sheep. Sheep actually feel safer when they're in a little bit of a larger community because they are prey animals, so they have a really high flight response. So they're really feel much safer when they're in a group. So when you have like a lamb or a sheep, when we first get them in, they are totally different, and then you put them in the flock and you can tell they feel much more secure and safe, and then their personality comes out. So the flock is what they really like. So I wouldn't just have 2, I'd probably have 6. But you have to be zoned, and you have to have property, and you want them to be happy. And you have to make sure you don't have predators, and there's all sorts of things. But if you're ever interested in adopting, we have an amazing adoption program, amazing adoption program. And we go through everything that you need to adopt, and we also go through everything that you need with you to take care of them, because they do have special needs that you have to be able to take care of.
So this is not a question about sheep, but we have somebody wondering how Margot Turkey is doing.
Margot Turkey lives pointing over there. She lives in this barn where this truck is going by. She lives in this little red barn over here, and she's doing fantastically. She lives with Robin. She has had, ever since she came in, because when she arrived, she was actually about 10 pounds overweight, which I'm 10 pounds overweight, but I'm not supposed to weigh 30 pounds. So she should be much, much smaller, and that's the problem. So when she came in, she already had such bad legs, and her feet were really bad. She had very callous feet, and her legs were actually damaged, and she had arthritis because they had let her get way too fat. So we've made her lose weight, and she looks great, but her arthritis continues to get worse. So she was having a much harder time in the main flock. I'm going to get out of the sun. Not that I don't love sun, but I felt blind for a moment. So we wanted to get her out of the main flock because she started to get picked on. And so she and Robin both have arthritis. They're both living in here. They're living with chickens, and they're doing great. And they actually seem much more comfortable because they're not in a big flock where everybody's being all picky and nasty, which happens.
We have a general question about how Farm Sanctuary got started in general. Was it through a donation? Did an individual start it? And how many workers and volunteers do we have here?
Well, the co-founder, Jean, who is our president of the organization now, actually used to do a lot of undercover investigation. So that's really how it started, was going undercover at like stockyards and all these different places where animals were being abused. And one of the big things that they were working on at the time was downed animals still being used and sold into like to slaughter. So an animal that couldn't walk, or an animal that was like so dehydrated that they couldn't stand, were being thrown on dead piles, were being sold as meat, and it was really, really horrific. Not that the whole process isn't, but that was one of the things that they were really fighting at the time to stop. So when we first started, the first animal was Hilda. So what happened was, you're doing undercover, Jean's down there doing the undercover stuff, and he took a picture of a dead pile. And the dead pile is a place at a stockyard or even at an industrial farm where they throw dead animals, or animals that are going to be disposed of by a renderer or picked up later. Hilda was actually thrown on a dead pile, but she wasn't dead. So when he took the picture, she looked up, he knew she wasn't dead. So that's when they started doing the rescue part of Farm Sanctuary. So it started out being more of a, why can't I speak? It's because I've been up raising babies all morning. And they started more as like advocacy and education. The rescue part came because of Hilda. So Hilda's actually buried here on this farm, and Hilda was the first animal.
Do we have border collies here to help herd the sheep?
We do not have border collies. I don't like the use of dogs or other animals to hurt other animals, scare other animals. Dogs used with sheep. Sheep are scared of dogs. So if it's a small dog, the sheep will try to kill the dog because they don't like dogs. But dogs are predators. So by their very nature, the use of dogs is designed to they can protect, but at the same time, it's also designed to herd. And herding animals are actually scaring an animal, and we really don't want these animals to be scared. So we are protecting them from predators. So I'm the herding dog, and they're not scared of me. But we don't want any kind of animal that they see as a predator in their space. We don't even allow people that, like if people have dogs that even live on the property, they always have to be on leash. Sheep are notorious for being run by dogs and actually having heart attacks, so we're really, really careful. And a lot of people will tell you, even people that have dogs that do that, that are trained to actually herd, because there's herding breeds that's what they want to do. They have to be very specific dogs, and there's reasons for having them. We don't need them here. And you also have to leave them alone. And I don't know if any of my staff could walk past a dog who's supposed to be working and not be like, hey, come on. And then the dog would be useless. So we don't do that, just mainly because these are prey animals and they don't want a predator in their barn. And I think I must look at the time. It's 2:36. So if anybody has any questions, anybody out there? Because if you don't, we're going to go down. Is there anything? Good. Okay, we're going to go down and see the calf in a few minutes. So if you tune in about, I think I spit. If you tune in a few minutes, we are going to go down and see the mom and the calf, see how they're doing. I think they're doing great. And I'm hoping, because we're going to actually let the main cows from her herd, that's our special needs herd, up to the barn so they can go with the baby.
I heard you have a meeting at 3.
Doesn't matter. We're going to do it. Because you know what's most important? You seeing the baby. Okay, so
All right.
we're going to leave. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Keep watching the sheep. Promise you don't count them because you're going to fall asleep. Bye.